Welcome to the playoff push for Week 28 with Simon Borg. I'm Jason Seguini. On today's show, postseason hopes in the Rose City, trouble in the nation's capital, and panic in the Big Apple. But first, let's take a look at the standings as we head into the weekend.
We start in the West, where it's LA Galaxy, Real Salt Lake, and Seattle Sounders all looking like a lock for those top three automatic spots in the West. Moving to the East, things are unchanged. It's Columbus, Sporting, and Philadelphia. And now moving on to the wild card area, FC Dallas has dropped into the zone, while the Portland Timbers have knocked off the New York Red Bulls in that number 4 spot.
All right, let's take a look at the movers for this week. With a win last weekend and a draw in the midweek, combined with the New York Red Bulls loss, Simon, the Portland Timbers have now moved into the playoff picture.
Big movers in that respect, but the Portland Timbers probably wanted those 4 points they recently gained to be 6, because both games were at home and they only have one of their last 5 games at home.
All right, the other mover that we have to talk about is Real Salt Lake. They have now won 5 straight games in MLS. This is not something you often see in this league.
That's how you do it if you're going to make a move, though. 5 consecutive wins. Now they are actually in the mix for the Supporters' Shield, the best record in the league. If they win their game in hand, they're only 4 points behind the LA Galaxy.
Right now, Real Salt Lake tied with Seattle on points. They're actually tied in the head-to-head as well. It goes all the way down to goal differential, where Salt Lake is ahead. Next up, we take a look at the missed opportunities. This week's missed opportunity belongs to DC United. A loss at Seattle over the weekend and dropping points at home in the midweek. Simon, this does not bode well for their playoff chances.
What's going to sting the most, Jason, is the opportunity at home. They were up 2-0 on Chivas USA, and not only did they botch that, but then 90th minute, a penalty kick by Dwayne De Rosario. He watches it saved by Dan Kennedy. What's got to worry you here if you're a DC fan? Your form at home. They are a better road team than they are at RFK.
All right, well, DC United has 7 games left on their schedule. That's more than any other team in MLS. But those games in hand, they don't matter if you're not winning them. And this weekend, they have a tough game against Real Salt Lake at home. Next up, staying alive, we're taking a look at the New York Red Bulls. At times this season, the New York Red Bulls have looked like they can beat any team in the league on any given day. Nowadays, they're really struggling, Simon, to put together consistent efforts. Can we count on the Red Bulls to make the playoffs this season? Is there still a lifeline here?
I think there's not only a lifeline for the playoffs, but this team still has a shot at one of the 3 automatic spots in the East. And I think what's going to happen is the Real Salt Lake loss is going to help them, because now frustrations have reached a critical point. And I think the team will come together and figure out defensively what they need to do, because that's their main weakness.
Well, it's going to be important to look at the Red Bulls' schedule ahead. They have a lot of tough games, including Philadelphia, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Portland, and Toronto now is no pushover. So can the Red Bulls get the points that they need in those games to get up into the top 10 in the MLS standings? Next up, we're going to take a look at the games to watch this weekend. We talked about the New York Red Bulls, and they have a critical game this weekend against the team that is 1 spot ahead of them in the playoff standings. That's the Portland Timbers. Simon, for New York, ties here don't do them any good. But for Portland, they could probably get away with a point here, huh?
Absolutely. I think John Spencer would be happy with a point, because it keeps New York at bay and allows Portland to continue to occupy that 4th and final wild card spot. Also, it allows Portland to continue their momentum of accumulating points. And at this point in the season, sure, wins would be great. But first and foremost, you want to keep racking up the points. They have a trip to Vancouver, their last place in the league, and a home game to follow this one. They wrap up the season with 2 on the road. But again, momentum, picking up points.
There's another game that we have to tell you about, and that is Kansas City and the Philadelphia Union going at it. This will really help shape what the Eastern Conference looks like after the weekend.
The swings for matches between teams in the East is so critical, because you're going to find towards the end of the season, all these teams are going to be bunched up. Remember, Columbus Crew, they're the leaders in the East. They have a very difficult match against the Galaxy. So Kansas City and Philadelphia, whoever can take a little bit more of an advantage, they want it here.
One more game I should mention this weekend. Simon mentioned Columbus, LA, but also DC United hosting Real Salt Lake. Those 2 teams very much in the playoff mix. That's all we have for this week's playoff push. Enjoy the weekend of action. We'll be back next week with more.